Our springtime travel begins in the state of Texas. Known for its size, it is the second largest and second most populated state. It has more farms, more farmland, and more cattle than any other state.
Where in the hell are you from anyway, Private? Sir, Texas, sir! Holy dog shit!
Traveling east to west on I-10, we are a little below the center line of Texas. We continue this path until we take a northwestern turn just above San Antonio. The course is mostly flat and passes by vast open spaces and large cattle farms. This is the side of Texas we wanted to see and set out to experience. The phrase, "Don't mess with Texas," was developed by an advertising firm to help the state with its anti-litter campaign. The slogan became so popular it is now an unofficial source of Texas pride. The trip begins from Gulf Shores. Our closing up to takeoff is divided into roles. Patty closes down the inside, and I take care of the outside. Lucas has more to do with the setup process than during shutdown. Today, his role is to stay out of the way. I may be responsible for closing up the outside, but Patty checks in on the quality of my work. Everything has a place, and everything is put into that place. However, it always amazes me, as we purge a bunch of stuff before departing, but when we pack to leave, every spot is full once again. How does that happen? We hit the road taking I-10 west. The first stop is Amite, Louisiana, at Nat Albany Creek Campground. For an overnight, this is pretty nice. We have a full hookup, cable, and a nice view of their lake. This spot is chosen to get above the flooding, which we are avoiding, and because it's how far we can travel and not require a fill-up. Leaving Nat Albany, we are again on I-10. The road is okay to start with, but not great. However, it becomes increasingly rough, so rough that we need to make a stop to effect a repair to our suspension.
We're filming while he's working.
We have upgraded many things in our RV, including the suspension. We've added shocks to dampen the road bumps, and up to now, this has been a great upgrade. However, this trip, the bumps and holes we hit are so severe that the right rear shock is knocked free from the rubber bushing, which is secured to the frame. As we are nearly to our first Texas RV park, we simply stop and quickly remove the damaged shock and resume our trip. All of our stops in Texas are at state parks. In planning, I chose locations that have decidedly different ecosystems. The first park is in Lumberton, Texas, and puts us right next to a national preserve, the Big Thicket National Preserve. Village Creek was chosen based upon its location. Although the park does have some nice facets, the canoe launch is nice, and their nature center is small but well worth visiting. While we are here, the park trails are mostly flooded and unusable without snorkeling equipment. Big Thicket National Preserve exists to ensure that the unique ecosystems present in the area remain vibrant into the future. The region is unique in both historical terms and in its ecological systems. Its preservation almost came too late. While locals to the region recognized the specialness of the ecology, the federal government was slow to come to the same conclusion. It was finally given protection in 1974, which, by then, only a few thousand acres of land was continuous and undisturbed by roads or irreparably altered. The park is a tiny patchwork of real estate that was acquired through eminent domain, a process no longer used by the national park to acquire land. The geology of the region is largely defined by the deposits pushed there by the glaciers reaching the region during the last great ice age. The resulting abundance of life forms created an ecosystem that was too thick for humans to penetrate. During the Civil War, Texans who found no affinity to either side and wanted nothing to do with the fight moved into the region and lived out their lives, finding everything they needed within the thicket. The first major incursion into the region was by the lumber industry. By 1880, the lumber in the east was drying up, prompting exploration of new locations. The rich forests of the region were well known. However, the technology to access and harvest the lumber was not yet available, that is, until the 1880s, when trains made moving the heavy materials viable. From 1880 through 1920, much of the pines and hardwoods were extracted. By 1907, Texas was the third largest lumber producer in the U.S., thanks to the Big Thicket. Palmetto State Park is a destination. Unlike Village State Park, which serves as a base from which to explore other areas, the 270-acre park is the westward-most habitat for dwarf palmettos. Its unique tropical environment, fed by multiple sources of water, allows for a tropical wonderland, giving one a sense of being in a botanical garden in South Florida, rather than being in central Texas. Besides RV and tent sites, there are several nice trails throughout the park. Easy-to-follow trails present several interesting sights, some wildlife, and mostly, but not all, tropical landscapes. During our venture out, we come across a sizable herd of deer and are quite adept at staying just out of our eyeshot. We also see numerous birds and even a javelina family, replete with several small young squeakers that stay quite close to their mother. The park resides between the towns of Gonzales and Luling. Gonzales, in 1985, was the capital of the Impreso Green DeWitt's colony and the location where Sam Houston heard about the Alamo and began the process of liberating Texas from Mexico. Rather than leaving to chance the feeding of water to the palmettos, the park serves out water to the plants from an artesian well. The water is continuously fed to the plants by a one-of-a-kind mechanical pump that feeds water to a vintage water tower. The structure originally served water to the people visiting the park, but it has since been adapted to serve the surrounding ecosystem, plants and animals. The ram pump, which requires no electricity, operates upon the pressure from the artesian well within the park to pump water up into the nearby water tower. The park, opened by Texas in 1936, has several buildings constructed by the CCC Works. These buildings remain today. In addition, the CCC laid out the 17 RV sites, which are covered in a sweeping canopy of trees. The foresight of their design allows the sites to continue to serve the much larger RVs in use today. There is a separate location within the park for people that choose to camp in tents. This location is reachable within short walking distance of our RV. The trek requires passing over the San Marcos River. This design consideration is still a valid advantage, allowing the tent occupants to experience a quieter and more primal camping experience. We frequently saw deer within the park, but they also were quite adept at staying nearly invisible within their surroundings. One thing that caught my attention during our walks was the size of the vines and how they attached to the trees. The trees would simply grow around the vines. This tree, however, was unique in that the tree actually died and all that remained was the vines. A mother javelina and her little squeakers rushing off into the bushes to call it a night. As with Palmetto, Lake Brownwood is a destination park, with the main attraction being the lake and relaxing by it or fishing within it. In response to a devastating flood in 1900, the local Brown County residents decided they needed to control flooding of the Pecan Bayou. The dammed-up resource is now the main source of water feeding Lake Brownwood. Construction began in the late 1920s on a dam to capture the waters of the Pecan Bayou, where it joined the Jim Ned Creek. Work continued for 13 years, and the dam was finished in early 1933. Skeptics predicted it would be years before the lake could fill with water, but in July of 1932, a record-breaking flood swept down the Pecan Bayou. The lake was filled and covered more than 7,000 acres almost overnight. The dam was not quite finished yet, and some occupied homes were flooded. Since that time, the reservoir has supplied drinking and irrigation water to the local community. In 1934, Texas acquired 538 acres of land around the lake and began building the park that exists today. The workers on that park were members of the CCC, and their work remains to this day. The CCC completed its work in 1942, and the park was promptly turned over to the military for soldiers posted in a nearby Fort Bowie to have a place to rest, relax, and restore themselves from the trials of World War II. The RV sites at this park are the largest we have ever experienced. The one we stayed at was more than 50 feet wide and ran all the way back to the lake behind us, perhaps 100 or 150 feet. Huge sites everywhere. We enjoyed the trails that ran around the lake, and the sunsets we experienced were perhaps some of the most pretty we have ever seen. We thought we'd give a trail cam a try on this trip. Well, here's how it turned out. Not so great. Hopefully you enjoy this time lapse of one of the last of the sunsets that we experience at Lake Brownwood State Parks. We are packing up in preparation for making way to Palmetto Canyon State Park, another of Texas's highly regarded state parks. Palmetto is considered a hidden gem. It is a canyon second only to the Grand Canyon in length. It has a stellar reputation, and we are really looking forward to seeing it. Perhaps you'll join us for that one too.